This is day 7, which means basically it's the 7th time that I've done this. Let's call it episode 7. It's also day 3 of our national lockdown. I just want to explain my process. I'm a technical neophyte, and yet I'm willing to learn. And I've been helped by this book, Mindset by Carol Dweck. Dweck is a Stanford University research psychologist, and she suggests that we need to change the way we think if we're going to reach our full potential. The thesis of her book is basically, and it's research based, that there are 2 types of mindsets that people have. There's a kind of fixed mindset which says, well, I'm as smart as I'm ever going to be. I can only do what I can do and nothing can really change. And then there's the open growth mindset which says, actually, I can grow. I can become smarter. I am capable. I can be more than I am. And based on research, it's very clear that how you actually will develop depends, and how you'll perform depends on which of those you can embrace. And people which hold each mindset have been switched over to find out what happens. And so we see that there's a possibility for growth and improvement. One of the things that happens with those people who have an open growth mindset is that they don't see failure as fatal. They see it as an opportunity to learn. Okay, I can do something about that, and I can do it better next time. So here am I, and I'm trying to learn. My simple process is that I'm speaking now to my trusty old Pentax K50. I will talk to this until the talk is finished. I get up, as you see, and push the button to start it. And when I've finished, I push the button to finish it. And then I upload it to YouTube. All very new. I don't do any editing. Maybe that day will come. But at the moment, what you see is just as it comes. So here we are. Today we're continuing in Matthew chapter 8. Jesus and his disciples are about to leave Capernaum by boat. In verse 23. And when he got into the boat, Jesus' disciples followed him. A windstorm arose on the sea, so great that the boat was being swamped by the waves. But he was asleep. And they went and woke him up, saying, Lord, save us, we are perishing. And he said to them, Why are you afraid, you of little faith? Then he got up, and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a dead calm. They were amazed, saying, What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? So Jesus is tired. Obviously very tired. And the storm terrifies his disciples. Now I find this interesting because something like half of his disciples are actually hardened fishermen. I presume that they've been on this lake many times and have encountered storms before. Yet here they are and they're terrified. And Jesus sleeps on. In their worst moments, in the middle of their fears, Jesus is sound asleep in the back of the boat. Or the front of the boat. Not sure which. Isn't this how life often feels? In our worst moments, our moments when we're at our most desperate and of greatest need, it feels like Jesus is far away, or he's gone to sleep. It's how life often is. So what do? They wake him up. Lord, save us, we're perishing. It seems at this point that they're not too concerned for him, they're very concerned for themselves. It's what we do. I want us to notice, though, that faith here is involved. I was helped to see this, was given a lens when I was at St John's Trinity College all those years ago, and Francis Fuchs was the warden. Francis was a wonderful, gracious, wise, learned, biblically literate and gentle teacher. And I had Francis for biblical studies, one of the biblical studies papers that I took. And he observed that Psalm 22, that great psalm of desolation, which is often linked with Jesus on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? That those words, rather than words of no faith, are actually words of faith. Because the psalmist, as does Jesus, turns towards God. That there is grief expressed at the sense of desolation, at the sense of loss, at the sense of abandonment. And yet there is faith expressed towards the God who is able to do something about it. And so we see faith expressed here. It may be little faith. The candle may be burning low, yet it is faith nevertheless. And I want to suggest that faith is where we turn when we're in trouble. Faith is that to which we turn when we feel like we're under the hammer or we're in a tight spot. It's then we discover who and what we truly believe in. And the disciples, they turn to the only hope that they have. I want to notice that he challenges them before he does anything. He says to them, why are you afraid, you of little faith? Then he gets up and rebukes the winds and the sea, and there was a dead calm. We notice that Jesus isn't afraid. He's not caught out. This hasn't taken him by surprise. There's a very real sense that we get this picture of Jesus calm and quiet in spirit as he simply engages with what's going on around him. John Wesley encountered the Spirit. As he was on his way to America, the ship that he was in, I guess more of a boat, encountered a storm where water was pouring in over the sides. He and his English companions were terrified. Yet he noticed that there was a group of Moravians. They were Germans, pilgrims on their way to America, who were calm and serene, who sang and who prayed, and who seemed totally unafraid by what was happening. They recognized that their lives were held by the one who held the storm, and they weren't afraid of the consequences. The word that we see here in the Gospel, why are you afraid, is a word that is hardly used at all in the New Testament. We see the same root word used in 2 Timothy 1 and 7. And 2 Timothy 1 and 7 is a passage which I repeat every day. It goes like this, and I'm going to give you my amplified version. God has not given us a spirit of fear, of cowardice, of timidity, but has given us a spirit of power, of can-do, has given us a spirit of love, of generosity, of kindness, has given us a spirit of self-control and self-discipline, of soundness of heart and mind. That promise is to each of us. This is God's gift to you. It's God's gift to me. And as a person who has struggled with anxiety, with fear, I remind God of it every morning. And I remind myself of it every morning. And I seek the grace to appropriate it, to lay hold of it, to live it out, and to step into it. one of the invocations that is used repeatedly in Scripture, and we see it in cases like Joshua, where God directs a word to Joshua where he says, "Be strong and of good courage." Be strong. And it is repeated, "Be strong and of good courage." Here's the thing. It's a gift that we only experience when we appropriate it. If we're waiting until we feel strong, we're not going to get there. If we're waiting until we feel courageous, we're not going to get there either. Strength and courage are experienced as we step into them. As we step forward, we discover strength. As we step forward, we discover courage. While we continue to sit and contemplate and ponder whether it's going to happen or not, it doesn't. It's like faith. It has to be exercised. It has to be stepped into to be experienced. And so we're offered that same grace. We're offered that same encouragement to be strong and of good courage, because God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power and of love and of self-control, self-discipline, soundness of heart and mind. These are God's graces to us. They need to be stepped into to be experienced. Over the years, I, this historically fearful person, have discovered God in the present. Discovered God in the still small voice. As I have sought to align myself in the practice of various disciplines, whereof I've learnt to hear that still small voice. And I've discovered in my times of anxiety and fear that the most common words that will come within my heart is, "Lord, are you still there?" And the response is always, "Of course I am. I've never left. I'm always here." May that too be your experience. May you too hear the still small voice which says, "I love you. I always have. I always will." That isn't going to stop. There's nothing that you can do that's going to change my mind about you. I'll always love you. I'll always be with you. Through whatever happens, even through death itself. You can trust me in this. May you too find, as those Moravians did, and ultimately as John Wesley did, that place where God is present, where peace can be experienced in the middle of the storm, knowing that we are not alone, but that God is with us. Amen.